All right. Live? Are we live? Let me just go to YouTube and check. Oh. All right. I'm a bit disorganized today. Let me just check again. Is YouTube live? Yes. Have we got any people there? Okay. All good, Luca. Got your track, bro. So it will be in the live stream. All right. All right. Hey, Marcus. I thought you were playing at Sisyphos. What's going on? All right. Anyway, I'm a bit disorganized today, so I'm just going to chuck on a track that I've just mixed, which is why I'm disorganized. I was just going along with that and kind of forgot what was going on. So let's just chuck this in here and tell me what you think. Nice. I played on Friday at Sisyphos. It was super fun. So I thought you and Gorge were playing on Beats and Boats or something. But anyway, have a good set. All right, okay, I'm ready to go. So sorry about the delay there. So that's a track I've been working on. I just did a mix down on it today, so I don't know. Let me know in the chat. What do you think? Is it shit? Should I delete it? Kind of a housey thing, summer vibes, you know. It's about 30 degrees in Berlin today and about 50 degrees in my studio, which is always fun. Anyway, let's listen to the first one. James Martin, Common Galaxia. Yeah, let's go. All right, James Martin, dude, this is fucking sick. I love it. The mix is a bit unbalanced, and that could be to do with the fact that I just put a bunch of limiting on it to bring it up to a relative kind of volume, relative loudness. But man, really cool idea. Love the bass line. I love that kind of like squelchy, kind of squeaky sound that you've got going on there. Loads of details, and it's not just like sometimes I'll get tracks sent that are like they've got a lot of details in the percussion or a lot of details in the synths or like lots of effect sounds, and kind of people will focus on one thing, whereas you've got kind of lots of different things going on, but the track is still concise and consistent, and it kind of sounds, yeah, it sounds good. It sounds like it doesn't sound polished, which is, I guess, like maybe the next step. Like, yeah, I think a lot of these synth sounds, like there was one that actually was like a bit of a shock. Like the sound selection and the sound design is really on point, but it's just like the volume that you've got, some of the things, some of the effects sounds and stuff creates a bit, yeah, just kind of the balance isn't right. Let's just put it like that. If anyone's been online and read any kind of like forums or advice on YouTube, everyone says like, don't mix into a limiter, that's for losers. But like, your track is going to be limited, right? It's going to be made fucking loud, and that's just how electronic music is these days. So I always mix into a limiter because it allows me to get a balance that's going to sound right when it's mastered. So I advise anybody to either do that, or at the very least, check your mix with a limiter on it. Use a loudness meter, and there's a free one called Julian loudness meter, which I talk about a lot on my channel, and just turn up the limiter until the loudness meter says like -9 LUFS. That's kind of a pretty good average loudness. It's not like over the top by any means, by current modern standards, but it's going to allow you to listen to your track and gauge roughly how it's going to sound when it's mastered, because the dynamics are going to be pushed by that limiting, and that's what's going to happen when your track gets mastered. So dude, this is fucking awesome. Write me an email if you're interested in having me mix it. I can definitely help you out with that. I don't like, in terms of like the writing and stuff, I don't really have too much feedback. It flows really well. Yeah, I'd play the shit out of that. So well done, dude. Okay, Luca Pincer, EDM Tips Remix Comp. What did you say in your email? You said that it's something from Loop Masters or something that they're doing in collaboration with EDM Tips, and that the vocal's a bit cheesy, but you wanted to give it a go. You do a lot of remix competitions, right? Anyway, let's have a listen to this bad boy. Sorry about that, my bad. I had it turned down by 10 dB. I was wondering why it was sounding a bit weak. Let's just listen to the drop and then go on. That hits so much better when it's got an extra 10 dBs of volume. I'm going to stop it there. I don't really want to. It's, dude, like, you've been sending quite a few tracks to these submissions, and this has like gotten so much better. Like, a lot of the previous ones, I remember, like, it was kind of like good, but it didn't quite, like, everything wasn't quite there. This just sounds really fucking sick, man. Yeah, congratulations. Like, your production level, your level of production's really gone up. It's dope. And I thought in the break, I was like, the vocal, maybe you've just kind of like screwed up the volume of the vocal, and but like that was done so well. It like having the vocal there with the processing that you've put on it, and then the volume, it creates like real tension in the break. And then when it comes out of the break and the vocal plays in like that first sentence on the drop, in full, it's really, really good, man. The breakbeat that you're using, it's nice, it's solid, it's crispy, it's not too chaotic. The bass is really dope. Like one thing, you could use, I mean, it's not necessary, but if you wanted to, you could use like a bass sound with or a layer on the bass with a bit more kind of character. It's very subby, but I don't think it needs anything. Like, it sounds pretty balanced. But that would be an option, you know, just having a bit more mid-range in the bass. Dude, like I love the distortion on. Someone was saying in the chat, Rajesh was saying that cool take on the vocal, and it was kind of like before I thought I'd heard a vocal, so I'm not familiar with the original. So is the vocal this kind of distorted stuff that's going on? Because that's really cool. I really like the kind of juxtaposition between the crispy hats on the breakbeat and like that that distorted vocal with some lush pads. Really dope, man. Really dope. If I had to give you a piece of advice, it'd be stop doing remix competitions and start fucking making your own tracks, dude. Yeah, I mean, you know, this kind of stuff is pretty cool right now. Get some original tracks going on. Take that. I mean, so with this, right? I think you said in your email that the vocals a bit cheesy. I think it fits. Like it fits to the track. You've done a really good job of using the vocal and making it not too cheesy. Like it ends up being a bit emotional or something. A bit, yeah. I think it's dope. But what I would recommend to you is ditch the vocal. I don't know what other elements from the original you've used, but I don't know. If you could do a track like this, get an original vocal on it and send that shit to Injuna Deep or Stress or something like that. Do it, man. All right. Let's have a look. DJ Nico Beats. Now, this one did not have the download enabled, so I had to like rip it off SoundCloud, so the quality's probably a bit rubbish. Yeah, if you're going to send tracks in, make sure the download's enabled. Okay, let's go. Alright, DJ Nico Beats, sounding good, Moreau. So there's a couple of things, like your bass is a bit quiet. It's got a nice tone to it, and it's playing a nice pattern. It fits with the groove. It fits with the kind of deep kind of style that you're going for. But I would just increase it in volume a bit. Yeah, so there's a few I can kind of just see from looking at the waveform. There's a few issues. Some of your hats are too loud. It sounds to me like you've used a few different top loops in there, and that they're all kind of playing at different timings, like, so they've got different swing on them, and that's something that can kind of like make your track sound a bit amateur. I don't know, maybe you've played all the drums in yourself and this is how you want it to sound, but I listen to a lot of tracks, and I do mixing and stuff for people as well, so I hear a lot of tracks at various different stages, and that's what it sounds like to me, is that there's you've got a few top loops and a few like kind of shaker loops and stuff, and they're all kind of playing at slightly different grooves, and it just sounds a bit chaotic in the high end. So you could either strip some of those back, or like try to control the timing a bit. Like if I grab a top loop from here, this sample pack is just so good. It's my sample pack, by the way, guys. There's a link in the description if you want to buy it. Okay, that's not going to work. Okay, let's just go for this no kick one. Okay, so let's say that this is the top loop we're using. So you just grab it here, press Command U, and it quantizes it, right? I'll undo that. If you press Command Shift U, it gives you this option, so you can set the quantize, you can set the amount of quantize. I just do it to 16ths. So this is just going to pull everything onto the grid, right? So if you're using a bunch of top loops, I recommend doing something like this. Grab it, Control U, pull it all directly quantized onto the grid, and then apply a groove template. This is the one I always use, MPC 16 Swing 57. For some reason, they've kind of changed the groove templates around in Live 11, which is a bit weird, and some of the ones seem to be kind of discontinued, but there is an MPC 16 swing in there, and you can just apply a certain percentage amount. Or if you go and get if you download one of my old templates from Patreon, one of my old track projects, then that I did in Live 10, then it'll have this swing in there, and you can save it to your Live library. But doing that across all your elements is just going to give you like a consistent swing. And then, like, because you're adding groove on top, it's not going to sound robotic, and it's also not perfect, so it kind of just sounds closer to being a kind of homogeneous swing. And then what you can do is use like one shots and things, and control it a bit more with the MIDI, and put things purposefully a little bit later or a little bit early, and then create your own kind of groove that way. So yeah, that's I don't know, a tip for anyone who is having trouble getting their tracks to swing and groove with like that kind of funky groove, but not too chaotic. Okay, so going back to the kind of writing of your track, you've got this kind of, I don't know, it's like this kind of, what do you call it? It's like 70s scat kind of. It's probably just a bunch of vocal chops. Now, you might have done this yourself, and so no disrespect intended when I say this, but it kind of just sounds like a loop from Splice or something like that. Which it's like, the thing is, it's not bad. But it's just not personally to my taste. So that would put me off the track. The track's got a really cool vibe, which I really enjoyed. But that vocal would be enough for me to not play the track. And I think it's really important when you're considering vocals and what to put in your track like that a vocal is not going to be for everyone, you know. So if you're using like I don't know, it's like a one shot of some kind of spoken word thing that's pretty nondescript, that's going to fit very well for most people's taste, but it's also not going to be that unique and stand out. So this is like, sounds quite unique. It does sound a little bit like it's from a sample pack, but it's not going to be to everyone's taste. So just bear that in mind when you're choosing things. The other thing that you've done here is like, you've got these good tip, Julian Rodriguez. I don't use Logic, but yeah, actually I was watching a video from someone, and they used that. I think you set a track, don't you? And then you apply the groove from that track to all the other tracks. So these breaks here, right? They're, how long is this? 30 seconds with no beat, nothing going on, right? So when you're writing music, think about how it's going to work in the, like, how are you intending people to consume your music? Is this for listening at home? I assume it's house music, right? So it's for listening in a club, ideally. The vibe of this is, I would say, a kind of for a warm-up set, like, and in a warm-up set, you kind of don't want people standing about, you know. This is going to be like, if this groove you know, you've got a really nice, cool atmosphere groove going on there, and then you've got this bit for 30 seconds where there's like nothing happening. So if you're a DJ trying to build a dance floor, this can be quite awkward, right? So what I would suggest, sorry, is that you consider kind of having the kick filtered out and the bass filtered out, maybe reducing the drums a bit and playing that through there. It's just having that kind of groove that continues on is going to work quite well on the dance floor. But at the, as I said, it's same with sample selection. It's your track, you choose what you want to do, but that kind of thing like puts me off playing tracks, and I know it puts other people off playing tracks. And I've had tracks where I've done this and I've sent it to labels that I work with, and that's the feedback that they've given me as well. So I think like a break like this works a lot better in a peak time track, because it kind of you have all this energy and then you stop and it creates this massive like juxtaposition in energy. It's really dynamic, whereas here it's kind of like a groovy, cool, like laid back beat, and then you take away, it doesn't, it's not super energetic. It's not like really heavy rides or really like it's not super fast. So then when you take away all that energy, it really is just going to kind of halt the atmosphere in its tracks on the dance floor. Okay, let's have a listen to Costan. I'm gonna butcher this name. Costan Torinila. Make it right. I like the name. Let's make it right. Dude, this is fucking awesome. I love it. There's a few issues with it, but like the vibe is, love it, it's great. Your hats and stuff are really quiet, man. Like, let me just see if I can boost it with an EQ. Like, if I got this track for mastering as a mastering job, I would 100% be going back to you saying like, hey dude, I can't master that, you need to fix the mix down a bit. It's a bit weird because you've got the low end like grooving really well, the kick's solid, the bass is solid, it's just this kind of high end that is lacking a bit. So that's with me boosting the tops, right? I don't wanna make a huge... I mean, it's a bit over the top because like, it's affecting some of the transients and stuff, and obviously some of the synths and stuff, which are also pretty well placed in the mix. So yeah, I would just like use a reference track. Check my channel. I just did a video, like, was it last week or a couple of weeks ago, about balancing a mix. I've also got a video on there about using span and using that to compare your track to your frequency distribution of your track to a reference track. So yeah, always reference. I hear on a at least weekly basis from people saying like, oh, don't use reference tracks, it's cheating, or it's like, you don't have to fucking copy the reference track, but it gives you a kind of, you can A/B your track and go like, oh, there's a lot more energy in that. What's different? Oh, the frequency spectrum, like my high end is like 4 or 5 dB quieter, right? So then you can just increase your hats. Doesn't mean that you're copying their track. That Costan, that wasn't directed at you. That was just like something that I hear a lot, right? Is that I don't use reference tracks, it's cheating. Do it. Like, guaranteed, the producers that you look up to use reference tracks. It's just, yeah. Now, the high-end thing, you can fix that easy. The problem here is the vocal. The vocal is fucking awesome. You've used it really well. And for some labels or some DJs, they're not going to care. But others, it's been used so much, bro. Like, I think the sample pack, it's like Ryan Conline or something. Ryan Conline. House acapellas. It's like, I've released I think 2 tracks with vocals from this, and I think it came out on Splice or something like 3 years ago. It's been rinsed, man, and there's been like some really big tracks using, like, Chris Dossi did that track, Evening Drive or something like that, which was using the same sample pack. Mark Knight did a track using it, and there's like countless more. But it's tough because you've used it so well, man. I feel bad for that. But like, and you may not know, you may not have heard any of these tracks before and just be like, this fun. I've like been digging for some samples and I found the perfect one. And it's a good one, mate. This dude's vocals are fucking sick, but I would say find another vocal, contact a vocalist, get on Fiverr, go and like find a vocalist. They're out there, and the thing is, like, I think a lot of artists are like, especially kind of more up and coming artists are like, oh, but I haven't released a lot of music, no one will want to work with me. It's like, find someone who's at a similar level in their career, a similar place in their career. Like, it doesn't mean that you have to use a shitty vocalist or something, but you can just find one that's like up and coming. Put in some time, get on Instagram, email people. Also, like, yeah, Fiverr I mentioned. 1 second, I've got something on my phone which I forget the name. 1 second. Soundbetter.com. On there you can find like session musicians, you can find vocalists, you can find mixing, mastering engineers, songwriters, everything. And these are really fucking good. Like, you can find top vocalists, top line singers, writers, like really good stuff. But it's expensive. But is that, it's like, so it's an investment in your music, right? And it's having original vocals, original lyrics can really help you to stand out. It can be the difference between getting your track signed to a really cool label or not, so consider it. Anyway, let's move on. Good stuff, man, good stuff. That's unnecessary. Rajesh Deshpande. I don't know. Sorry, dude. Sorry if I butchered that. Recycled Love. Nice. I like the name. Rajesh, this is nice, man. Really, really cool. Like the vibe is dope, dope. Um, so there's a couple of things with the balance, I think. You've got quite a lot of stabs and pads and things going on, and some of them are quite loud and they're a bit harsh. Also with like, so often when I'm doing these live streams, I'm giving people the advice that they need to use more delays and more reverbs and get things kind of moving a bit more. I feel like in this, with like the vocal being so prominent in the mix and having a lot of delay and reverb on it, and then all of these stabs, and it kind of feels like everything's got a lot of reverb and delay on it, so it kind of feels a bit washed out, which is giving it a bit of muddiness. So I think it's something that always works well is having contrast. So having some things that are more dry, some things that have less delay, and some things that, so when you put delay on, say, like a stab that happens like once every bar or once every 2 bars or something like that, then it kind of creates it creates depth and stuff to that. And then you have another stab that's maybe more happening more frequently, that doesn't have such prominent delay and reverb on it, and it creates contrast between those things and creates depth. But when everything's got a lot of delay and reverb, then everything's kind of in the background and it feels kind of washed out. Another thing is your bass is quite loud. It's a cool bass line, I really like it, but I think it's probably a bit too loud. I always find that, so like to play if I went and played this in a club, I'm pretty sure it's gonna just sound really muffled in the low end. A good trick that you can do is grab an EQ like this and bring it down to around 100 hertz. And you can kind of hear what it's gonna, you can kind of hear a bit better what the low end's doing. I've heard people talk about this as being like, you're like in what you hear when you're in the toilets at the club, you know. And what, so I just noticed now what's happening in the low end as well. So basically you've got your kick here. Let me turn this on the spectrum. So your kick has a fundamental frequency of G, right? So this bass sounds really cool. It's very subby. It's got a very low fundamental. Of F and D sharp, is it? Yeah. So yeah, the fundamental is very close to your kick, right? So when I play here where the kick and bass are playing, so you're getting very little separation in the subharmonic frequencies, right? That's always an issue. So if you want to have your really low bass like that and really dominant, I would suggest having maybe like a bit of a higher kick. For myself, I generally choose to have like a kick that's around like where you've got yours, and then a bass line that's got a fundamental that's a bit higher. And if I feel like that bass line is not punchy enough in the sub frequency, I'll add like a sub lower in the mix. But this is yeah, it's a bit, I think it's a bit too much in the subs, you know. It's gonna, especially if you're playing it on a system that isn't like incredible in the low end, it's gonna sound really muffled. It's not gonna punch, because it comes down to the physics of how a subwoofer works, right? In order to have like punch in the low end, it has to have dynamics. The subwoofer has to be able to punch out when the bass frequency plays, and then come back in and reset, and then go again. Whereas you can just see by looking at your waveform, all this sub-harmonic energy is like, it's not going to give the subwoofer a chance to reset, right? So yeah, there's some issues there. One thing I really liked was this kind of hi-hat that comes in at the start. It's tambourine. So nice. Yeah, some of these stabs and stuff are a bit loud. It sounds like they're kind of distorting. Maybe it's distortion you've added to them, but it sounds like they're almost distorting on the limiter or something. Same with everything, like distortion. If you're gonna have things that are really distorted in your track, I think it's nice to like juxtapose them against elements that are a bit cleaner. Just helps, because if you add lots and lots and lots of elements that have got a lot of distortion on them, then your track starts sounding distorted. That's a taste thing, but I find that kind of what the human ear tends to like is balance, right? So, and that kind of comes with being quite specific about what elements you're going to distort, what elements you're going to delay, how loud different elements are. Yeah, but the vibe on this, dude, you really nailed it. It's really cool. I think with just rejigging a few things, and it could be like super sick. It's got like I don't know, like kind of 2012, 13, 14 kind of, when that deep house wave was kind of going on. It's got those kind of vibes, you know, when Disclosure were coming up and that kind of thing. It's really cool. And when Bicep were making house. You say you need me. You say you love me. I like it. Yeah, the vocals maybe a bit too loud as well. I don't know. So I think there's a few mix issues, but all in all, really solid stuff. McQueen.
back to life, brings all of us to life. Music is about balance, precision, understanding. Music is about balance, precision, understanding. Balance, precision, understanding. Music is what holds the world together. This world, the next world, and the previous world. Music is what holds the world together. Holds the world together.
Solid track, Will. Really dope. And I was just checking, it says on the file that it's been mastered by JB Mastering. Is that Josh Butler? I know he's doing mastering now, because yeah, it sounds good. There's one pretty solid issue in the bass, which is that it's stereo, and it's quite stereo. RME said in the chat that he thinks it's panned to the right, which it sounds, yeah, but I think it's actually, oh yeah, it does. Okay, maybe it does look a little bit panned, but I think it's a stereo effect, right? Maybe it's panned and got a stereo effect on it. Let's grab this bad boy and sides.
Music is about balance, precision.
Yeah, it sounds like it's a stereo effect because there's, when I press, yeah, that's what I got, because it seems like solid in the level on the sides. But okay, so the point is, okay, so when I use this, right, to solo the mid and the sides, so the bass is playing here, right?
Precision, understanding.
So it's got more energy on the sides than it does in the middle, right? So what that means is that, this is why I grabbed the utility. When I hit mono,
music is about balance, precision.
Your bass is gone, mate. So if someone plays this in a club or a festival or whatever that's got and you know, the thing is, it's an energetic tune, it's got a big bass line, and the bass line is really carrying the track. Chuck that shit through a mono system and it's going to fall flat, mate. It's I think there are ways to use stereo in a bass, and you know, it'd be nice if every system had had solid stereo compatibility, but I think in this case it's too much anyway. Even if you're playing it on a stereo system, right? A person in the club is not going to be standing exactly in the kind of sweet spot. You want to have a wider sweet spot, especially for the low end, right? You want the kick and the bass to be punchy no matter where you stand in the club. So what I suggest doing is, if you're going to put like an ozone or some kind, any kind of like stereo enhancement on your low end, let's just say this is your bass, right? So what I would do, let's just say I'm going to use a chorus because it's easy. Okay, so that's going to fuck up your low end because everything's going to get spread out. So what we do is we group it. We have a chain here which has got the chorus. I'm going to put that to fully wet. I'm going to right click, create new chain. Let's call that dry. Cool. And then on this one, let's call it wet. So now we've got one that's got chorus, one that's just got the bass coming through the center. Let's just assume that the bass is coming through the center. And then we grab an EQ, we chuck that onto the wet, and we can just put a shelf, put a low cut, right? So now everything coming below here is going to be cut away. On here you can even put a utility or something and put this bass mono up to like 150. You want it to be solid. So now what you've got is a stereo bass that's also got solid mono compatibility. So you get the effect, you get the kind of vibe that you want, but it means that when that's played in mono, it's not going to disappear, because that's what's going to happen here. So, other than that, bro, it's dope. I can't remember for the life of me where that sample's from, but it's a dope sample. Yeah. So just always just there's way, like people say like, oh, don't do stereo on your bass, don't do delay on your bass, don't do reverb on your bass. Do it. It sounds fucking cool, but keep that in mind that it can cause problems, and just kind of, if you work with that intention from the start, that you're going to kind of make a solid mono compatible low end, and you keep checking that, then and to check that, like, it's really handy to just have a utility or something on your master all the time, and you could even set a shortcut key on your keyboard to just turn it on and off, and just hit that mono button and listen to what's happening, because the same thing can happen with vocals, anything that you're putting some kind of stereo enhancement on. So what I do when I'm mixing my hats is I also use an ozone stereo imager on my drum bus, and I'm adding some slight stereo enhancement in the kind of upper mids and low high frequency kind of areas in different amounts. I've got it set with different bands, but in my kind of like 10k and up band, I've actually got that set to be mono, and the same with the low end on the drums. And the reason I have the high end set to mono as well is for the same thing. You want to kind of protect that kind of those hats and that low end, because that's where the energy of your track comes from. So by doing that, by making those parts mono, it means that you're going to have definition no matter what system it's played through, and no matter where the person is standing in the club. The energy is not going to disappear from the track. So hopefully that was helpful for you, dude. Otherwise, sick stuff. Love it. Thanks for sending it in. Luno Bunk the Fire. I can't quite remember, but I think this was another one that was not download enabled, so it might sound a bit rubbish. I can't remember. Man, this is so good. I love it. And yeah, the download wasn't enabled, so I guess it's been ripped off SoundCloud at 128 kilobits, but I don't care. It's fucking awesome. Question for you: is that using the bass from one of my templates from YouTube? Because I don't know. This might sound a bit cocky, but I love the bass, and it kind of sounds like something that I would do when I'm trying to make this kind of music. So good. And I think it's got a bit of chorus on it. That's why I put the mono, the utility to check. Actually, let's grab this control from Brainworks, and you can go solo in place, sides. What's happened there? What? Okay, so there's no sound. Ah. It must be completely mono because of ripping it from SoundCloud. That's weird. That had me. That's really weird. Okay, I'm confused there, but okay, maybe it's completely mono. I'm not sure. No, the file doesn't look completely mono. Fuck knows, I'm so confused. Ah, okay. No, anyway, enough of that. It's working well, the mono. It's really, really good, dude. The vocal is going to make it so it's not going to be for everyone. I think I can't remember if is it a sample or is it from a sample pack. I think it's from a sample pack. It's really familiar anyway, but it's really cool. You've used a lot of the vocals, so that's kind of, there's a thing when you use a lot of vocals like this, it kind of gives you more chance that your track is going to be like a hit, but it also means that if it's not, then it's going to kind of, there's going to be a whole bunch of people who are not going to play it because it's got too many vocals. So you could think about doing like a dub version or something like that. If I've got a track like this and I am having that kind of thought, like, oh, maybe the vocal isn't going to be for everyone, maybe I've used too much vocals, I'll generally make a dub version with like no vocals or less vocals, or using them in a slightly different way with much more sparingly. And then when I'm sending the demo, I'll put the dub version first in a SoundCloud playlist. So that way they can listen to it and go, oh, I like this, like just judging it on the rest of the elements. And then they listen to the vocal version and maybe it's not to their taste, and they might come back to you and say, hey dude, we like this, we want to release it on our label, but not feeling the vocal so much, can we just go with the dub version? And then, you know, maybe that is the kind of thing that gets you signed to a label that you really want to work with. So that would be a piece of advice for anyone sending out a track with a lot of vocals. But yeah, really cool stuff. The arrangement is like a bit crazy. You've got no intro and outro. Well, you kind of do, but the bass line's playing from the start, so take the bass line out, bring it in at like 30 seconds, create an outro, you know. Yeah, and then you're solid, mate. Of this tribe. I really like that. Yeah, it's class, man. It's class. Like you've used the vocals well. You've kind of, the actual arrangement in the track is good. It just feels like it doesn't have, feels like it's not a DJ version. It feels like it's a work in progress or something in terms of the arrangement. So get that sorted out and then you're good to go, bro. It's like, also one thing to point out here is, like, I'll often say in these streams, like, oh, do more automation, get more things going on, moving, and the groove and stuff seems pretty static in this, but it's so good that it doesn't matter. Like, the groove is just so solid and the sounds are tight, and yeah. So there's a lesson for everyone, myself included. You know, if the kind of foundation, the bass and the drums of your track is good enough, then a lot of the rules don't apply. You know, if that sounds like as good as this does, then you can kind of, you've got a lot more room to move with the rest of the elements. All right. Pintaro Brothers, Familiar Feeling. Okay, this one looks a bit quiet. Let's go. All right. This is really cool, man. Guys, I really like it. There's one thing that struck me straight away though. These chords that are coming in. They're in a similar frequency spectrum to the bass, so you start to get some kind of you start to get like some cancellation, or you just got the frequencies that are masking each other, I think. I like the vibe. Yeah, DJ Deegan has just said that it sounds a bit repetitive in places. Yeah, it feels like a very short loop. Something that I think is kind of making that, or kind of intensifying that feeling of it being a short loop, is that you've got this atmosphere thing, which is clearly looping over one bar, and that Ben Rao, yeah, that's a Kiwi accent, bro. Yeah, so that's looping over one bar, which really gives this repetitive feeling. And then, so what you could do is just basically take your drum section, so this is one other thing that I was going to suggest, is like the drums are pretty stripped back. So you don't need to add like loads of top loops and shit like that, right? You can just add in some kind of like fills and one shots and like a few kind of snare hits that happen over 8 bar loop or something like that, or 16 bar loop, and then have like a little fill at the end and a crash, and you know that basically, like, although, and when I say that, I don't mean you need like 50 different things. It can just be a couple of things that play less frequently that turn that from like a 1 bar loop into an 8 bar loop, right? And that's just going to give this feeling of that you're listening to something that's repeating over a longer period of time. So it just retains interest to the listener. I really liked, like when you were building this up with introducing that vocal, I was like thinking to myself, shit, I hope this is not going to go all the way through the track, and it didn't. I think I really liked what you did there, because it creates tension and release, and it's a cool vocal, and it makes you want to hear it again, and then you held out for quite a while to let it come back in, which is really good. I think it takes a bit of restraint to do that, and it's something that I see like newer producers missing a bit, is creating that tension, like teasing something and then holding out on it a bit. There was a sound at the end when after I'd listened, I was like searching through for the sound you've done, that kind of LFO wah, 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 wah sound. It's really cool. I couldn't hear it anywhere else in the track. So this outro here kind of makes me think that maybe it's a work in progress. But yeah, like the chord changes that you've used are really cool. It gives like a whole another depth to the track. Yeah. DJ Deegan, there's a link pinned to the top of the chat that says about submission. So I let everyone know in Patreon, generally like at least 1 week before that we're going to do one, and then people can submit them. But yeah, there's a link up there to my Patreon. So I tend to do it about once a month, sometimes more frequently. Yeah. So the other thing that kind of irked me a little bit was the kind of down-pitched, what does it say, welcome to my house, or get out of my house. No, where did he say it? can't find it anyway. Something about welcome to my house or get out of my house or... Anyway, I wasn't feeling it, to be honest. Seems a bit played out. Just the combination of the lyrics and the pitch down vocal, like I find stuff like this on Splice and Loop Cloud pretty frequently. And instead of doing the thing that everyone does, which is like find the R&B or pop vocal, pitch it down and put it into a house track, do the opposite. Find the pitch down vocal and pitch it up so that it's back to its natural sound, and then put it in your track. And it kind of, I feel like it works. And it's also not the way that most people don't do that. So it gives you something that is not going to be used in that way generally. I don't know, I've said this a million times on these live streams, but I tend to like one vocal in a track. It can be like, I get the temptation to add more, but I feel like unless it's done really well and there's some kind of consistent theme between them, or that like a kind of subject matter that they're talking about, it can come across a bit kind of like hacked together when you've got like kind of just disjointed samples in a track. So cool, let's move on, and we're listening to Dicky Clear, Sabotage. another solid offering by Dicky. He's definitely got his own kind of sound, which is cool, consistent. So one thing, when I was listening to this, like, it's very atmospheric, right? And that's cool, and I know that's kind of what you're going for with this, bro, but what I would suggest is having some kind of dynamics and juxtaposition with that atmosphere, right? So you kind of, because it comes from the start, you've got like a lot of pads, there's a lot of reverb on things, you've got this like vocal that comes in. What I would suggest is having all that going on in here, then when the bass comes in, cut away some of that like atmospheric stuff and make it a bit more dry, right? Then you can kind of start bringing in some more of the atmospheric elements here and cut it away again. And then kind of, so using that kind of like that atmosphere that you're creating in the track in a dynamic way to create tension and release. And it's going to kind of make the breaks seem like more ethereal and kind of more floaty and dreamy and lush, and then it's going to give a harder edge to those drop sections, right? And it's also going to keep the listener more engaged as you go through the track. But like I know the sound you're going for, and I think you're getting better and better at nailing it, man. So good stuff. Yeah, but just I think with anything, like, excuse me, oh, it's been a long weekend. So with anything, like, keep it dynamic, keep things changing up, like have sections where you kind of change things quite drastically. That's why you know, like when in a club, when you hear a track and it's kind of like playing along here, and then there's like a small riser and it drops away to just the kick and the bass and like one other element or something, and that's just got such impact in the club because it creates this real dynamic change. So always keep that in mind in your music, you know, how to create like dynamic, strong transitions. Okay. Alec Smith, Blind Wave. Did I put a... Okay. Man, this is giving me like real Peace Division vibes. I don't know how old you are or any of the viewers, people watching this are, but like, if you don't know Peace Division, go look them up. They're one of my favorite artists. Well, it's a duo. It's when I first started getting into electronic music, it was like their stuff, early kind of stuff, that early sound that Steve Lawler was doing, and as well, kind of like tribal tech house, but this is like straight away it's giving me Peace Division vibes, which is, from my opinion, a very, very good thing. The arrangement is a bit like you come in pretty strong with the bass line and everything, but pretty cool. Like just the groove and everything is like, I feel like if you rejigged things a little bit, it could just be really, really solid. All right, we're almost done, but we're almost done anyway. So, yeah, this acid line that comes in, I think it could have a little bit more, some chorus or reverb or delay or something that could be automated. It could change a bit more, but it's a really cool sound. It really works really, really well on the track. And here's a really good example of two vocals that are clearly from different places but work really well together. But it's not like there's kind of like a main vocal or a vocal hook and then some other just random vocal. It's like you're just using a little kind of short bit of a vocal and then another short bit of a vocal, and they're playing together in a pattern that creates kind of call and response using like different textures. This is a really clever way of using multiple vocals together. I actually just looked you up because your name sounded familiar. I see you've got releases on Danny Serrano's label, Serrano's Kitchen, and Collective Machines, Collective Music. So yeah, cool stuff. Go check out Alec Smith on Beatport and Spotify, guys. I really like it. I feel like it could be a bit polished though in terms of the arrangement and stuff. Like it's a bit so you start with this texture kind of thing in the background, which is again creating like a very short loop, right? It makes it seem very repetitive. So doing stuff to break that up. I noticed here after this main drop, you've got a bit where you take the kick out. Just kind of doing a few things like that more frequently throughout the track, just taking one kick out, or having just like not even like a snare fill, just like a with a snare at the end of like 4 or 8 bars or something. It's just going to kind of make that loop feel a little bit longer and keep the listener a bit more engaged. That would be my only kind of criticism about that kind of thing. The mix is a bit rough and ready. But I don't know. It's like it's kind of true to the era of music that I am likening it to. The mixes weren't super perfect back then, but I feel like if you were to play this up against other tracks that in a similar vibe that are modern, it might fall a bit short in terms of the mix. But really, 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 in terms of vibe wise, I think that's my favorite track from today. So awesome stuff, Alec. Randy Biscuit, Hostage.
feel like you're hostage, no your lover. You're gone undercovers. When you love me, when you wake up, is it me or am I not enough? Then you leave and I'm hollow. Some days I get so low, it has to be a way out. Hostage, you're gone undercover.
Right, Randy Biscuit. So I think the mix on this is really kind of letting the idea down a bit. Like your bass line is very, very forward, and it's got quite a bit of mid-range presence, which is kind of like, it kind of messes with the groove a bit. So first of all, like you bring the kick in here, some of that kind of low mid percussion, there's like some conga sounds and stuff in there. I would like to hear that a bit louder in the track, so that at this point it's already got a bit of groove, right? And this, maybe it's just my taste, but I like that, and I feel like it helps to kind of create a bit more kind of movement and groove within the percussion, right? I feel like that's really important. Then your bass just comes in so loud and so much mid-range. I think it's a bit, I feel like it's a bit over the top. It's kind of the peak volume of your bass is about the same as your kick. In a club, that's just going to sound like crazy. And then the piano comes in even louder. Got a comment here saying better without the piano. And I think the piano can be used. It's just like much, much too loud. It's kind of takes over the whole mix. You can't hear anything else really when the piano's playing. And then you've got this crazy, crazy, crazy snare roll, which is also super, super loud, and the piano. There's just kind of, there's a lot going on in some of these moments, right? Then you bring in the vocal, which is kind of cool. It works. But I think, personally, the track is cooler without the vocal. The vocal to me sounds like something that would be on the radio. Hostage, no your lover. You're gone undercovers. When you love me, when you wake up, is it me or am I not enough? And not necessarily in a good way. Like, I think using it in the way that you have earlier is kind of, it allows to have this kind of like poppiness, but still with a bit of credibility. Maybe it's, for a label like Solotoko, or I don't know, that are a bit more commercial leaning, then that could be fine. And maybe that, I don't know, maybe it's a personal thing, personal taste thing. For me, like, I wouldn't play a track with that vocal. It's just too far in that direction for me. But I think, so I think, like, just balancing out the percussion a bit, toning down the bass, maybe make it a bit more subby, cut away some of the mid-range frequencies, and really rein in that piano. Then I think, I get why you've done that, why you've had the vocal play there, but I think you could kind of make it a bit more of a cool track by trying to do the same, give the same effect in terms of the energy and the release that having that vocal gives, but by doing it in a bit more of a clever way that doesn't give away the full poppiness of the vocal. I think that could be cool. But maybe I'm just not getting the vibe that you're going for in that regard. Hopefully that was helpful for you, dude. So thanks everyone for submitting your tracks, and yeah, I'm getting a bit sleepy. It's been a long weekend with some cool gigs, a lot of drinks, and lots of cool people. So yeah, really cool music here today, guys. This was like some really solid stuff, really cool. So thanks for sending your tracks in, and we'll see you next time. I tend to do these live streams every month, at least once a month, and if not more. Let me know in the comments when I post the video if you want to see more of these. And if you want to submit tracks, it's exclusive to patrons on Patreon. So click the link in the description to go over to Patreon, and you can find all the information about it there. I always post like at least a week before to say that it's coming up, so that everyone's got time to submit tracks.